Welcome back, everyone. So, now that you've had a chance to speak to your experts and to compile some how might we's, we're now ready to kind of organize these how might we's into something a bit more cohesive that we can use. To kick things off, just explain how this works a little bit more clearly. I'm going to be using again our fictitious Travel Bucket app sprint to explain what this output looks like. In our fictitious Travel Bucket app sprint, we have spoken to some experts, including travel agents and hotel owners and kind of travel agents or airline operators. We've spoken to a couple of travel influencers and some small restaurant owners. And some of the key things we heard back were that for travel agents or hotel owners, they regularly have hotel rooms that become available on free cancellations, and they'd love to fill those rooms last minute. Empty rooms cost them money. Something similar from our airline operators. They often fly planes that aren't full and they love to fill those seats last minute. And then from our travel influencers, we heard that I'd love to give my followers something helpful to keep them engaged. I'm always looking for new content, so new ways to organize content, I suppose. And from a second travel influencer, we heard that I'd really like to be able to refer my readers to specific sites and restaurants from my travels. Doing this on Instagram is really messy, there's no order. And finally, we spoke to a restaurant owner who says that they would love to be able to give people a reward for referring new customers to their restaurant, but they never know how to track that. So these are some of the things we have heard from our experts. Now, while our experts were speaking, our team was jotting down some how might we's. So your board now might start to look something like this. You don't have to fill out all of these how might we's. We just have a few extra stickies there in case people need them. Yours might be a little bit more crowded than this. Ours is only a hypothetical sprint, so we've just got a few examples in, but just to show you what that board might now look like. Each person has written down their own stickies. So as you can see here, we've got some around maybe utilizing last minute capacity for flights, or how might we help users discover new places to visit. How might we remind users of cool places they've seen? We might also see something similar over here. So again, how might we help followers of influencers to emulate them? There's some crossover, there are some similarities in each person's how might we's, and that's to be expected at this stage. What we want to do now is try to organize all of these how might we's. So what we're going to do is just highlight, so you can click and drag to highlight the relevant stickies. And you want to just bring them down here to our organization area. So we're just going to do that with each person that wrote some stickies. We'll bring them all down here before we start to organize them. Once we've brought down all of our how might we stickies, we can see that they're all kind of higgledy-piggledy here together. You will see on your Miro board that there's an example here. And the idea is that we try to categorize each of these how might we's into relevant categories, so that we can identify which areas in general we need to tackle and to address. So as a team, what we did here with our Travel Bucket app is to just pull all of these relevant stickies together, and we just kind of gave each section a title. So these stickies here are specifically to do with last minute deals. So how might we get deals on last minute flights that are not full? How might we let people know that they can get somewhere on their bucket list for cheap? How might we get deals on hotels that are not full? How might we capitalize on the last minute capacity travel agents often have on flights? So they're all to do with last minute deals. These stickies down here are all to do with utility for users. So these are your non-paying users. How can we help people organize their bucket list places? How might we remind users of the cool places they've seen? How might we put order on users' bucket lists? So you can kind of see some overlap there in these stickies, and the general theme there is utility for users. And we've got usefulness for influencers here. Again, stickies that are all kind of relevant, a little bit of crossover between them. So we're just trying to come up with a category title for that. And we've got something about virality and sales. So how might we get a broad market reach? How might we stop the app feeling like an ad site? How might we get lots of users to download it? And then normally you'll end up with a couple of sort of weird ones a bit out on their own. Maybe under a miscellaneous banner. So how might we share photos or ratings from a place? And how might we allow restaurant owners to give influencers a cut for referring new customers? And those things might be hard to categorize. So it's fine to leave them on their own in a miscellaneous group if needs be. But feel free also to leave this ungrouped, and they can kind of become their own groups if needs be. If they're different enough, they could become almost their own section titles. Keep that in mind. Now, the way we do this is generally just open it up to the floor, ask everyone to start grouping things. So just drag stickies around by clicking and holding on them. And we generally take 3 or 4 minutes to do this and have an open discussion as you go. You know, if you feel that a sticky here belongs in a different group or in its own group, in a new group, feel free to do that and just tell your team why you feel that way. It's an open discussion. We want everyone to be included. So feel free to have this fairly loose form, informal, and so long as people feel comfortable voicing their opinions, you should end up with a result that looks something a little bit like this. Now from here, there's a couple of different approaches we can take in terms of next steps. What we'll often do is do some dot voting. So we might create a shape here on the side, which looks like this. So, and we can add a bit of color to that circle. So let's say red, and we might create, let's say, 2 votes each. So in this case, each person in the sprint would get 2 votes and they get to put them onto the tickets that they feel are most pressing. If we take that dot voting approach, we might end up with something like this, where people have voted either for category titles or for specific stickies within categories. Either is fine. We're just trying to get a heat map essentially of what people feel is the most important after speaking to the experts and what areas they want to address. That is one approach we can take. The second approach, if you wanted something a bit more informal, is that we could just have a discussion amongst ourselves and see what people feel is most important and least important. And the third option is to do something called stack ranking. That is an optional exercise, but we will go through that in the next video as it's a little bit different. So whenever you're ready, if you'd like to stack rank your priorities, play the next video. If you'd rather move ahead without stack ranking, feel free to skip to the next one in the session.